Now to plenary 5, where Dr. Cesar will come and share with us how the church is alive in ministry and mission
Colombia.
in Colombia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Brothers and sisters of the Synod of Mid-Atlantic. Thank you for the invitation to talk about the God mission in Colombia. I am a mission co-worker serving there since 2013. So it's almost, it's 10 years, actually, 10 years. But what is Colombia? Please move. Yeah, what do you know about Colombia? You probably, when you hear Colombia, hear about Shakira, okay, the musician, dancer, but I don't dance like her, but she's a very good dancer.
Yes,
but
you can.
People know about Colombia because the music, about for the cumbia, salsa, or other people more like Colombia because the historical cities to visit, like Cartagena. Cartagena is always full with visitors from around the world. Or maybe you hear about Colombia because other issues, more popular around the world. I don't want to talk about that because I don't want to feed and refeed these stereotype things about Colombia, because Colombia is much more than some problem that we have there. Colombia is a country in the north part of South America. This is Colombia. You have there the political and geographical map, and in the top there, in this lemon color, is Barranquilla, in the left. Barranquilla, there is where I live. It's a beautiful city. It's about 2 million people, always active, always you have things to do. It's very hot, warm, humid. The temperature media the whole year is about 90, 92 degrees. Well, they don't have 4 seasons, they have only one summer. And this is true. This is true. I learned that when I just arrived. The coldest weather is probably 84. It's the coldest, and this is always during the November, December, and January. And the people in there call the winter. It's because they have rain, a lot of rain. And that is Barranquilla. Because, of course, it's not the same weather for the whole country, but it's for Barranquilla. But why? How the Presbyterians arrived to Colombia? Well, right after the Revolution War in the 1810, after many struggling with the new government, the new leadership decided to invite people from different church than the Roman Catholic. So they invite to Presbyterians to come to Colombia. Not the Presbyterian Church decided to go to Colombia. The government invited to Presbyterians to come to Colombia. This is historical data. And then this gentleman, Henry Warrington Pratt, who was a student in Princeton, he wanted to go to Africa. After the mission office received this invitation, and they talked to him, and he decided to go to Colombia. So in 1856, he, not the PCUSA, but you have to help me with that data, the Presbyterian Church, in that year, sent him as a missionary in 1856. After several years working in Colombia, in Barranquilla, in Bogotá, in Cartagena, and other places, he and other mission co-workers or missionaries at that time, they decided, after conversation between them with the office in US and talking with the new Presbyterians in Colombia, they decided and they agreed that the best way to do mission in Colombia is through education. That is why the first American school was founded in 1886, really, in Bogotá, and then in Barranquilla in 1889. By the 20th century, some decades back, we had in Colombia about 14 American schools founded by the Presbyterian missionaries. So they were serious on education. And then, after many years, they wanted to have a Presbyterian university, but it was very difficult when you try to open an evangelical university in a country which is controlled by the Catholic Church. Maybe you don't have that kind of control in US, but let me tell you, in each Latin American country, you have to deal with that reality. It's not just political or religious power, it's political power. That is why many of our theological institutions didn't have accreditation. Even we have well-known professors who were teaching here in US also, in many of our seminaries, like Princeton or McCormick and others. But anyway, this is the American school in Barranquilla, which is next to the Reformed University. You see two pictures there. The next one, please. So now, what I am doing, Barranquilla, what is my job description? Well, I would like to have more time for vacation, but they keep me busy. And I put here some yearly responsibilities with the school and also with churches. Courses that I teach typically are much more now on systematic theology, and when they need help in the Bible courses, they ask me to teach also. In the beginning, when I arrived, I was teaching 2 or 3 courses in theological systematic-ish area, and then 2 on Bible, Old Testament mainly. But now I am more focused on theology. And also, of course, I am part of this research group because the government, because this is accredited school, the government require to have a research group in order to have some points and be good when the government evaluate the academic level of the school. And also I am the editor of the Palabra y Vida, a theological journal. It's online and in Spanish, and also I visit churches. Our work there in Colombia is very connected with Matthew 25 message. We cannot do effective mission work in Colombia without applying the message of Matthew 25. If we do that, we will be living in a cloud or disconnected of our reality. So, yes, please. Who are our students? Well, our student is very diverse. We have a very we have Pentecostals, First Square, church students, we have Baptists, we have Catholics also, and of course Presbyterians. Presbyterians, we don't have too many Presbyterian students, but we have Presbyterian students. I think it's the same in our seminary here. And this is also inter-educational. I had a student who were 17 or 18 years old, and others in the 40s, 50, and this gentleman here, I love him. When I met him in 2015, he was 68 years old. Maybe somebody could ask him, why do you want to go to this school? You are 68. You need to enjoy. You retiring. He was not retired. He was in the church as a pastor. And this picture is from I think it's 2015 or 16. He graduated. He was 71 years old. It was, you say, why? It's not needed. But in places where the people follow the example or the model of the old people is very important. It's a strong message. And he finally gathered. This is the other group of the students. The next one, please. And also, let me tell you this because this is important message about the education in Latin America, the theological education. In US, when you go for theological studies, you go to the graduate school, the master level, and here, master in theology or theological studies, whatever. In Latin America, we follow the Latin tradition from Spain, from Italy, from France. We go to the seminary right after we finish the high school. That was my experience. I didn't study anything but theology. I went to the seminary when I was 17. So that is the same in the whole Latin American countries. I had my class here, my contemporary theology, and we were talking about several authors from Europe, from here, and also from Latin America. And we talked also about several theological issues in the theology field, but also in our churches. And this group of the class decided to have the final project on LGBTQ subject, concerns. And I asked them intentionally, why you wanna do that? And they say, it's because we talk a lot about these issues, and honestly, we didn't know the issue really. We don't know, we don't read about it. We just follow the voice of the people in the street or in some churches. So they decided to go on this subject and study and go deep. And this is the way how in our mission work, trying to connect the pastors and the leaders in churches on reality, in the reality of our society, in the reality of our churches. Because we need to solve this in Latin America, in Colombia, in our churches, in our Sunday school classes, and also reflect on the seminary. The next one, please. Women and poverty. Professors and students participate in public protests to stop violence against women. Displaced women who are victims of violence and head of household and live in poverty. This is in the center of Barranquilla. The violence against women is a cruel, it's very sad reality in Latin America. We experience family violence, intra-family violence. And then we have studies done by sociologists that tell us that the violence against women is not different when you have the data from people outside of the church and with the people inside of the church. And this is sad, but this is our reality. That is why we need to talk about that, how we face that reality, how we empower women, how we face this patriarchal model of life in Latin America. So when we talk about women in Latin America, we talk always about poverty. And when we talk about poverty in Latin America, we cannot just talk about an economical issue. We always is connected with gender. So the next one, please. Women, okay, now, educating life for peace. This is the slogan of our school. Educating life for peace. Venezuelan migration in Barranquilla. This woman, the Pastor Zulema Garcia, who used to be the moderator of the Presbyterian Church of Venezuela. She was one of our students. She wrote her project about the immigration of Venezuelans in Barranquilla. She did a wonderful job. Now she's in Atlanta. She's a pastor of a new worship community there. Again, she's Venezuelan, and she did her work on the Venezuelans' migration experience in Barranquilla. We also try to provide and invite to the people to deal with these particular issues, because sometimes when you belong to the other country, you are not attracted with that issue. For example, our Colombian students, they didn't work too much on the Venezuelan migrants. But when we have Venezuelan students, they want to work in that issue because that issue touches their life, their body. Okay. The next one, please. Immigration is connected with poverty. More than 6 million of Venezuelans are living out of the country. Where? Everywhere. In Colombia, the official number says that we have 1.5 million Venezuelans. But we know we have much more than that. Because the border is almost an open border. So people just go and cross the line. And most of them are working in the street, selling a bottle of water, Coke, or Coca-Cola, no, or the Coke, cleaning your windows of your car in the light, and things like that. Coffee, they also sell coffee. The goal for each of these workers is made 35,000 Colombian pesos, which is the equivalent to $7. If they do $7 in one day, they will be fine. This is the reality of the Venezuelans in Colombia. And I have many pictures because I ride 2 blocks from the school. And I walk there every day. When I walk to the school, I always see them working in the 2 corners that I have to walk. A little bit about our Presbyterian church there. The Presbyterian church was established in 1937. The Presbyterian mission work started in 1856, but finally the church was founded in 1937. They had, at that time, 6 presbyteries, 6 presbyteries, but by the year of 1990, the church was divided into 2 Presbyterian churches. One, I don't know, left or right, I don't want to say anything, but one of them don't want to talk about social or political issues. One of them don't want to have women in the ministry as pastors. The other one, of course, accept women in the ministry as a pastors, as a real elders, and also talk about the social and political issues. So, and also the first one don't accept divorce pastors. This is accepted. So, this was one of the big reasons for. There are other issues also, but I don't want to talk about them. But now we have 3 presbyteries in this Presbyterian church that PCUSA had partnership. The Presbytery of Urabá, which is in the northwest to the country, the Presbytery of the coast, which is in the north and northeast of the country, and the Central Presbytery, which is located in the center, in Bogotá, Medellin, Cundinamarca, and areas around Bogotá. 3 presbyteries. The next one, please. I want to tell a little bit about these 3 presbyteries. This is one church, the 3rd Presbyterian Church. They name it in this way: the 1st Presbyterian Church, the 2nd Presbyterian Church, the 3rd Presbyterian Church, the 4th Presbyterian Church, the 5th Presbyterian Church, and sometimes I just was confused because I keep the names. and well, this is the third, and they are located in a neighborhood with particular issues. They are facing, I would say, it's a neighborhood with three main challenges: poverty, gangs in the street, and drug sellers. You have to be careful when you are walking to go to this church. I've been there several times for preaching, and when you go to the church, you don't have to take more than the money for the taxi to go and to come back. It's there's no good idea to bring your cell phone or other things. I never have any experience, but let me tell you that I am serious with this. A mission team from one presbytery from Texas went to for the coastal presbytery and then visited this congregation. And they were in the building with all the equipment. And they were assaulted inside the building, in the building. They lose the cameras, the cell phone, and everything. So this is serious in the area. But anyway, they have also migrants, Venezuelan migrants living in the neighborhood. And this church is doing a wonderful ministry with Venezuelans and also with children. Children with this seat of peace, children ministry, because they want to prevent the children to enter to the gangs when they are teenagers or in the youth age. So they are doing a wonderful ministry. This is the lay pastor. So this is in the presbytery of the coast. Is it that one? And then we have here in the central presbytery, which is in Bogota, Medellin, and other cities. We were working there in a workshop on pastoral ministries and evangelization. This is the offices of the American School of Bogota, one of the largest American schools there. Well, I don't know why they called American School, but this is the name. It's no, because from the American government, it's the name that they put it. So the next one, please. This is the presbytery of Urabá. And I want to talk a little bit about this church. This is a new church. Not new, but I think it deserves some explanation. This is just brand new. Last month, actually, the first week of March. One big problem in Colombia is the violence. Violence that comes in the life of the people from guerrillas group. Violence from paramilitaries group. Violence from drug dealers, narcotraffic groups. Yeah. Which, with these three, we have enough. But this violence created a culture of violence in the city. People is no, in Colombia, it's no violent people, but you see in the society there is something there. And that happened when you was born in a violent country, culture. And this is the challenge in Colombia. When I talk with my friends and colleagues, pastors and professors of the seminary, they say, Cesar, when I was born, we already have guerrillas. All our children were born during the guerrillas and the internal war culture. We don't know what it means to live in a peaceful country. We never had that. This is the people that is telling this history. So, and this church in somehow reflect this reality. Presbytery of Uraba is in the northwest. Many or most of the area is rural area. But of the three presbyteries, this is the most growing presbytery. And this is the proof. We have a new church. But this church was founded, began the ministry in 1956. I'm gonna have the correct date. They started in the 1954. And the history is very interesting. A person purchased facilities in order to put a cantina, a pub for the night, people go there, have a drink, dance, the whole night. Well, one of the neighbors said, well, why we don't put a school here? And a school that can help to the neighborhood. And the cantina was there, but after a few months was sold to have a school. And that school was used as also as a school, but also as a church. And this church began in that place. In the 1954, after almost 20 years of being working, they were organized as a church. But in the 80s, when the violence was worse and worse, they had to leave, not just the building, the neighborhood, the area. Let me explain you what is happening here, because we don't face this situation here, but this is what happened in those areas. When one of these groups that I mentioned can be guerrilleros, can be paramilitaries or guerrillas, when they have the control of the area, they push you back and out of the area. So that is one way how the displaced family have to move to wherever they can find a place. So this church was closed, not because the lack of membership, not because they are struggling financially, because the violence. So everyone leave the area, and then in the 90s, almost 10 years after this experience, violence in the area was under control, and then returned to the place. And they try they work very hard trying to rebuild the church. And the pastor there, in the middle, in the white, is the pastor Diego Higuita. He is the pastor Diego Higuita. He is the executive secretary of that presbytery. So, in the 90s, they were returning and rebuilding the church, And they opened as a new organized church in this month. So when we talk about violence, poverty in Colombia, it's also affecting the faith communities. Not because they are losing the money, but because they are victims of the violence. We have in the same presbytery one moderator of the presbytery son who was killed for one of these groups. I can tell you several histories like this, but the violence is connected with poverty. Because when you are displaced family, you are displaced children, you have nothing. When you go to Barranquilla and you visit areas around the city, you see them living in the street, sometimes in parks, in very terrible situations. So, violence connected with poverty, and this is touching our church life, our churches. The next one, please. How you can support the mission? Please pray for Colombia for peace. Pray that we can teach Bible and theology with academic seriousness, but also with passion. Make a disciples of Christ. Also, pray that we can encourage people to be peacemakers, because we need churches that can be involved in peace. I don't know if you here in US, but in 2016, after the government spent like 5 years in conversation to achieve a peace agreement, the first result or response from the people, because they make a referendum, the people vote no. We don't want that peace. You know who were the main influencers for this no answer? Churches. Conservative churches that don't want to deal with this, with some particular issues. After a couple of months, 2 or 3 months after, they make another referendum, and finally the people vote yes. But it's called our attention as a pastors, as a school professors, that our church, no Presbyterian, but churches in our country vote for no. So that is why we say pray that we can encourage people to be peacemaker congregations and to serve the poor, women, victims of violence, and migrants, and work with them. Not work for them, but with them. Support financially, and you have a prayer card in your desk, so you have information in the back if you want to have additional information, and you can look for this. And now I want to ask you that if we can think a little bit on 4 questions. It's in the next page, please. What are the roots of the poverty here in our presbyteries? What are the roots of the poverty? Can we identify them? How do you see connected women and poverty, how we connect poverty and women. As I told you, in Colombia, this is a reality. You can talk about poverty, but immediately you are going to refer to the woman life. Third, what your congregation are doing with immigrants who were forced to migrate to USA? The Venezuelans in Colombia are not there because they love Colombia. They are not there because they like Barranquilla, because actually sometimes migrants face discrimination, sometimes some kind of persecution, and the society has an stereotype of the immigrants. But how you presbytery, what your presbytery is doing with immigrants was forced to come to US, because it's the same. Immigrants here don't come here because they love the weather or because they love the ocean or the beach. People come to work and sometimes suffer similar experience than Venezuelans in Colombia. And we have churches in our presbytery who are working with migrants. But true of the matter is not all of them are working with immigrants. Number 4, how our congregations can help and support displaced women who are victims of violence. We have here also violence against women, suffer sexual violence, or exploitation, or physical violence. Our congregations can help them, can support them. How? In Latin America, we say this, it's very difficult. Maybe you hear about the liberation theology, right? And people say, well, liberation theology is a political message, is a political gospel. In Latin America, we cannot divide it. It's in the context, and we have to deal with that. So, but how we here live these particular issues? I am trying to connect this with our reality here. When I was working in the Charlotte Presbytery, we faced also some the reality of the immigrant population and also the poverty. And we use several programs in our denomination, the 10 cents of meal, 10 cents of meal, and then also we use the self-development of people to work with some groups. Sometimes we use a PDA to work with other groups. But what our congregation are doing with this kind of issues? Any of you want to say something or share something about this? Can we keep the question there? Sure. Or you prefer to divide in groups? It's up to you. Well, if we can divide in the same groups, to the same 4 groups, the number 1, the number 2 there, 3 and 4, we can talk a little bit about this. Maybe 5, 10 minutes? 10 minutes, is that okay? Okay, 10 minutes. Please, you don't have to answer or talk about the 4 questions, but pick one that you see is more relevant for you. So we divide in these 4 groups and talk a little bit about that. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and 4.